home preserved food is the original convenience food. And sure, canned meals like I'm going to show you today can take a little legwork up front, but it will save you a ton of time and money later. I think some folks tend to shy away from canning food because it seems a little bit intimidating and time consuming. In fact, learning how to can was on my bucket list for at least a decade before I buckled down and learned how to do it. But that was because I felt really intimidated and a little bit scared of the process. But if preserving food or meals like I'm going to show you today is on your bucket list, I encourage you to do it because I know that you can and you will definitely thank yourself later. Okay, first up for the shelf-stable meals is a very simple chicken soup. This recipe came from the Ball Book of Canning, and I will link that in the description box below. But this is going to be made in the pressure canner, and all the recipes today will be made in the pressure canner because it is a low-acid food. So water bath canning is used for foods with high acid, and pressure canning is used for foods with low acid. The acidity matters because this is how we determine the right process to prevent botulism. So botulism spores do not thrive in high acid foods. So you can put those high acid foods in a water bath canner and you are good to go. But it does thrive in low acid foods. So you have to put those low acid foods under pressure so the temperature can get hotter to 240 degrees to kill those botulism spores. So that is the difference between water bath canning and pressure canning, or at least why we choose those options. The day prior, I roasted a whole chicken and then picked it. So I am now chopping up 3 cups of that chicken to put in this soup. And I also chopped up onions, carrots, and celeries that go in the soup too. And one of the things I like about these canning recipes is they're really easy. There are a number of steps and stages because of course you do have to can it and process it, but the recipes themselves are super simple. So I'm simply just chopping up the chicken. I'm not even sauteing those veggies. I'm just putting everything right into a big stock pot. And then I am adding in some home canned chicken broth. Now you could use store-bought chicken broth. I don't have any chicken broth. The other option, which probably would have been better for me to do, I just didn't have a chance to do it, would have been to make homemade chicken stock with the carcass from the chicken I roasted the day before. I actually have that chicken carcass in the freezer, so in a week or so, I will make some bone broth with that and then can it to replace this. But for now, I'm just using what I have on hand. And then I'm simply just bringing this to a boil. So most often, not always, and you'll see an example of when we don't do this later in this video, but most often recipes for canning call for what's called a hot pack, which means you put hot food into hot jars. The downfall to hot packing is that there is an extra step of cooking the food, but it does work a little bit better because it shrinks the food for a better fit. It reduces some trapped air. It can improve the texture and color, and it can also help the liquid levels stay consistent with the jars. So I have found in my experience that hot packing does work a little bit better, but I'll show you an example of a cold pack in just a few minutes. Now, there's not really a lot to this chicken soup, and a lot of times canning recipes are pretty simple, and that's usually for safety standards. But once it comes time to serve this, I can throw in some leftover pasta, some rice, anything that would go good with chicken soup. So it makes it really easy down the road to just doctor it up and make it a full meal. But for now, this is a pretty simple soup. And I'm filling these jars all the way to the top with 1 inch of headspace, and I'm using a new type of canning lid this time. These are superb lids. I got them from Azure Standard. I've always used ball lids, but I decided to try these, and I have to say, I think I like them better. They're a little bit thicker, and I know this sounds silly, but the pop is a lot louder, and I really like that. There's something really satisfying when those jars pop when they come out of the canner. I really recommend investing just a couple bucks in a rocker for your pressure canner, which you can see here. So this is a regulator that goes on the valve and it has a weight on top, and that helps regulate the pressure. Without that, your canner does release pressure as needed, but you have to adjust the heat a lot to keep it at the proper pressure for your elevation. With that weighted rocker, it does it all by itself. And this is the deal breaker for me between pressure canning and not pressure canning, because otherwise Otherwise, I would have to be in the kitchen watching the gauge the entire time, making sure it's staying exactly at 11 pounds of pressure. But with that rocker, it maintains that pressure for me. So not that you can just leave and not pay attention to your pressure cooker, but you don't have to watch it like a hawk the whole time. Next up, I want to show you how to can plain old chicken. And this is where I'm going to show you how to do a raw pack. So a raw pack is where you put cold food or raw food in room temperature jars. The benefit of this is that you don't have to cook it before putting it in the jars. So it's a little bit faster, but it can come with a few problems, which you will see a little problem that happen here in a few minutes. But first, all I'm doing is just chopping up some chicken breast. Now, chicken breast, I've been saying on YouTube now for weeks, it's too expensive if you're going to make chicken to cook a whole chicken, but I did find a good deal on this chicken breast at Sam's Club, and that is a great opportunity for canning. If you find a good deal on chicken breast, get it and can it. So that way you can really reap those benefits of that sale and have convenience food waiting for you in the pantry. I think sometimes people overcomplicate or even over romanticize the idea of canning food, and they feel like they can only preserve things that they grow themselves, or they can only can food that they slaughtered themselves, like a chicken, for example. But that isn't the case at all. You can use store-bought ingredients for your canning recipes. I warmed my jars just a little bit because I do add a little bit of hot water to the chicken before I put them in the canner, which I'll show you in a second. But first, I'm filling the pint jars with that chopped chicken and leaving 1¼ inch of headspace. I prefer to can chicken in pint jars. You can process these in quart jars, but a pint of chicken like this is about the right amount I need for most recipes. For things like soups, and you'll see later a stew, a quart is better because that's more of a whole meal my family can eat, but a pint of chicken is about right. Anytime I can chicken, I do a cold or raw pack like this because it's just a little bit easier, but there's usually not enough juice in chicken to actually cover all of the meat in the jar through processing. So I add about an half an inch of water to the jar before processing it. And this helps give just a little bit of water to cover most of the meat once it is finished in the canner. Anytime I have to add water to a canning recipe like this, I always bring it to a boil first just to kill anything that might be in the water. So that's why I do have those jars in the canner warming when I'm still putting cold chicken in them. So just in case you were wondering, because I know I mentioned before a hot pack is for hot foods and a cold pack is for cold foods, but I'm kind of doing a little bit of a hybrid here. Canning chicken this way is really easy. It cooks in its own juices in the pressure canner and it's delicious. You can throw it in anything like tacos, burritos. We really like to make chicken salad with it. Basically, anything that calls for shredded chicken, you can use canned chicken. Okay, next up are Boston baked beans. And this is not hard by any stretch of the imagination, but it is time consuming. So I'm starting this one first thing because I need to soak the beans and then I have to bake them for 3.5 hours. So anytime you're cooking dry beans like this, you do need to soak them. You can either soak them overnight, but I'm doing a quick soak. So I'm just simply rinsing them. And then I'm also picking out any discolored beans, which I think I'll show you in just a second. There were a bunch of yellow ones in there that I took out. And then I'm covering them with water about 2 inches above the beans, bringing it to a boil, turning the burner off, letting them sit for an hour. Oh yeah, there are those beans. So you can see anything that is discolored or kind of like shriveled or funny looking, just take those out. Then once the quick soak is done, I'm simply draining them, filling the pot back up with water, and then I am cooking them just until the skins start to split. And then from this point, you're basically just making baked beans as you would make any homemade baked beans. And I'm following the recipe from the Ball Blue Book, which I will link in the description box below. But it takes a long time. This whole process before I can even get the baked beans in the jars takes hours. So I really want to emphasize how important it is to make sure you read through the entire recipe and all the instructions before you get started. And I really recommend sticking with canning recipes that, one, you will not only eat and enjoy, but two, that you can actually fit into your day and it doesn't become an added stressor to your day. Look, sometimes I feel like canning foods, and when I feel like it, I do. And sometimes I don't feel like it, so I don't. So don't feel like you have to can things all the time or you have to do long, complicated recipes and make baked beans when you really don't have time to do it. That's not how it should work. We are really lucky to be alive in a time when we don't have to do this for survival. This is a choice. Maybe it's for nutritional reasons, maybe it's for budget reasons, but it's really nice that it is an option. So don't let it stress you out. Stick with simple things and can things when you actually feel like you want to and you have the time to do it. Because this recipe takes a few hours, this is a good one to start during the day. But actually, one of my favorite times to can things is at night because my house is quiet, my kid's in bed, and I can just focus on what I'm doing without interruption. And what I really like about canning at night is that once you take the jars out of the canner, they have to sit there undisturbed for 12 to 24 hours anyway, so you can just go to bed. I often also make sourdough bread at night too, but the problem with that is it has to cool once it comes out of the oven. And I have spent many nights way late waiting for the bread to cool so I can put it away, but you don't have to worry about that once the cans come out of the canner. So if you have the energy in the evenings, nighttime is a really good time to can recipes that are short. Probably not the best time for baked beans unless you get those beans going earlier in the day. I originally thought that those beans would fit in a baking dish, but there were way more than what I thought I had. So I put this in my largest stock pot and then I put them in the oven at 350 for about 3.5 hours. While they were baking, I got into my final recipe for the day, which is a beef stew. I am a product of the 90s, and I was just joking with a friend the other day about how I grew up eating Dinty Moore beef stew, and I thought it was the most delicious thing. You just opened the can, dumped it in a bowl, heated it up, and you had lunch. And now I don't eat Dinty Moore beef stew anymore, but this beef stew is just as easy once you get it canned and processed. It does require a lot of chopping though. So a tip I do have for canning is employ any family members you have who can help you chop. So my husband stepped in and helped me chop up some onions and celery because I had a ton of potatoes and carrots to peel and chop. Now, again, I'm doing this in the daytime, but very often my husband and I have turned my food preservation nights into a date night, and he will help me chop things and get things going, and we'll open up a bottle of wine and have a good time. So if you are meandering into your mid 40s like I am and date nights look different, food preservation is a great way to have a date night at home. This is a giant batch of stew. So I'm actually using my water bath canner, which is stainless steel and fine for cooking in, to make this stew. So once I have all the vegetables in there and I brown the meat just a little bit and put it in the stock pot, I just covered it with some water, throwing in some canning salt. I always recommend using canning salt. Other types of salt sometimes have an anti-caking powder and they make your food look a little cloudy in the jars. So canning salt, a little bit of time, bring it to a boil, and I am filling up those jars. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier in the video or not, but it is important when you're canning food to take a little bit of vinegar on a paper towel and wipe the rim of the jars, especially if you have food like beef or meat, for example, that's a little bit greasy, because if that liquid happens to siphon out, which does happen sometimes, that grease can prevent it from sealing. So the vinegar can help cut that grease and can make sure that you get a good seal on your jar. Like the chicken soup, when it comes time to serve this, you can add whatever you want to it, a little more salt and pepper. If there's some other ingredient that you want to add, you can definitely do that. But I will say there was more stew in my big water bath canner pot than I could fit in the jars. So we actually ate that stew for dinner this night, and it was delicious. It didn't need anything. So that's really nice because when I'm really busy and I don't know what to make for dinner, I can pop open a jar or two of these, warm it up on the stove, and we have dinner with zero extra work. Now, in case you're wondering, I haven't mentioned this. This is the Presto pressure canner. I will leave a link for that in the description box below. I suppose I would call this like a mid-range pressure canner. There are some that are a little bit cheaper and there are some that are much more expensive, but so far I've really liked this one. And it is time to wrap up those baked beans. So they were in the oven actually a little more than 3.5 hours. They finished before the beef stew did. So I turned the oven off and then I just reheated them so they were nice and hot and I could put them in hot jars. And then I simply just filled the jars up like I would anything else for pressure canning. And I think this recipe again called for an inch of headspace. Like the chicken, I prefer baked beans in pint jars because a quart's probably just too much for us to get through in one sitting, but you can definitely process those in quarts. And it was delicious. We ate the leftovers that night for dinner too with the beef stew, and they are so good. And now I have all of these jars of food that can go in my pantry. They look beautiful in the pantry, and I have homemade convenience food. Yes, it did take a little bit of work up front, but now we have days upon days of food that we can eat without any extra work. And I want to remind you that you don't have to do all of this in one day and you don't have to do all of this all the time. Just do some here and there, and in time, you will be stocking your pantry with homemade convenience foods. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you again next time.